dick move. I don't respect that. No, Chris, no. This did not turn out like I hoped or anticipated.
All right, I'm here today with Noah Smith, famous blogger. Noah has a PhD in economics and was a columnist at Bloomberg before creating his wildly successful Substack, which you can find at noopinion.blog. Noah, thank you for coming on my Substack.
Thanks for having me on.
Now, I reached out to you because I saw a tweet of yours where you said, or an X post of yours, where you said, I'm kind of sad the internet is going to be crammed with AI slop from now until the end of time. We only got to have a few decades without slop. What did you see that made you tweet this specifically?
Oh my God, it was an X account, actually. It's called Insane Facebook AI Slop. If you just go to this account, you scroll down it, I guarantee you will not last 2 minutes before you've decided, okay, the internet's done. We're done. Pack it in.
Oh man.
It's over.
A lot of people have been sending me, somebody did a tweet of a new product that's supposed to make famous books, turn hard books into easy books. So it takes famous works of literature and does the little kid rephrasing of it for you into simple English.
Nice. Lolita. I want to see that. Okay, no, I don't really, but yeah.
We've been passing around joke versions of this, like Ahab, fuck you, whale, I'm going to kill you.
Nice. Do Finnegan's Wake.
I have no idea. I need the AI for that one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so you saw this AI slop account, and it made you feel like this is our future, we're doomed to this?
Yes. I just sent you the link in a chat, and you can take a look at Insane Facebook AI Slop. What's the, hold on, what's the... it's just x.com/Facebook AI Slop.
Got it. All right.
And if you just scroll through this, 5 seconds of scrolling through this, like, it's over. The internet's over. Like, because, and people are like, oh, AI is going to get better. And like, no, it's already better. It's already better than this. Like, AI, like Midjourney can make things incomparably better than this. The thing is that this doesn't come from people prompting things to make something good. This comes from AI prompting things. So speaking of dog fooding, AI is dog fooding itself. AI is, just like eating its own content now. And, it's like training itself. It's training itself to talk to itself. And these are the nightmares that result when like a chained demon, awakes and then has only itself in the universe.
Some of these are pretty good, though.
No, Chris, no. Although I guess we did just find the audience. It's not weird in the way that humans are weird. When humans make weird things, there's some method behind it, and you can sort of like see a window into someone else's mind. There's no mind here.
but then why is it so compelling?
This did not turn out like I hoped or anticipated. Well,
okay,
anyway, so the rest of this podcast is just you looking at the AI slop thing and me laughing at you for looking at it.
I gotta turn it off. I'm very like distractible by shiny object. That's one of my many flaws.
Or by a hummingbird with gigantic
hairy balls.
rambutan testicles.
You tell me you wouldn't. You telling me that if you'd seen that and you didn't think it was AI, you wouldn't have been like, "Heh."
I'd have been like, nope.
Okay, well,
you know that octopus who's like he's like running away from something. He's just like, nope. That's me right now. I'm like, nope.
What do you make of this AI slop?
I mean, it's just it's zero marginal cost. We can now generate things for zero marginal cost, and so everything will be generated.
Everything will be generated. So you're taking an economist's view on this. The marginal cost of whatever you would describe that as, we're going to have an infinite, too cheap to meter amount of hummingbirds with balls.
Indeed.
And so you think that will turn into a unavoidable torrent that overwhelms the whole internet, and we're all just kind
Yes.
of drowning in slop from now until forever.
Slop. I mean, like, there will be ways to get real human conversation. There will be, you can go in Discord and someone's unlikely to spam your Discord with slop. Or like DM groups will be fine, mostly, pretty much fine. And then there'll be, if there's like a feed where you can actually follow real people, that'll be fine. Like Instagram, people post like stuff. I don't know what people post on Instagram, rabbits on their Instagram. That'll be fine because you're following someone. You can follow people who don't just post slop, right? All algorithmic feeds and like public forums, like free entry public forums and algorithmic feeds will be slop.
Right.
Even
So
TikTok eventually will be slop.
yes. Yeah, TikTok is maybe unique or most well-positioned among the major platforms where it is kind of, you're just like, hit me again. And as soon as the AI can give you something that keeps you glued to the screen, it doesn't actually change the product at all.
Yeah, so I think that slop is our future. We weren't really doing good things with the internet much on our own. So I'm not necessarily sad to see slop overwhelm all. So algorithmic feeds and public free entry discussion forums like Twitter X, are those are naturally shitty, right? Because jerky humans enter and ruin it.
Yeah.
And lies and all kinds of things. So the point is that like we've now automated that process. We have now created a god of lies that is better at lying than human liars. We have replaced the human liars with the god of lies, and people will just now learn to just assume that those public forums are filled with lies instead of thinking, oh, a person said it must be real. And that, like, we carried on for years with that. So actually the AI slop will be an improvement. I pine for the early days of the internet when, only geeks used it, so only nerds used it, so it's sort of like my own people, so I could go find my people, and real people were still like, watching TV and like doing shit in the real world and playing sports, whatever people do like in the real world. And then, the weirdos would be just sitting in front of a screen talking about anime to like the other 10 weirdos who are online. This is back in like, 2002. 2004. Like that's what the internet was. It was the place where the geeks went and the weirdos went to escape the real world. Then social media happened, and then smartphones happened, and smartphones with social media happened. And that was it. Like that was done. That was game over because at that point it was the eternal September event for the entire internet, right?
So you're almost a slop accelerationist. You're like, we already have slop. Now that we have AI slop, it's just going to finally make it obvious to everybody that we're filling our brains with complete valueless sludge.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe some of them will stop doing it. Maybe they won't.
I'm a slop accelerationist, man.
That's
Just
funny.
bring it on. I will spam no matter how much stupid crap you say, my robot can say stupid crap faster. Face my robot at internet dicks. That's the name of this episode, by the way. Face my robot internet dicks.
Face my robot internet dicks. Got it. Yeah, this kind of matches I wrote a thing the other day on the Substack blog about like the two futures of the internet, kind of trying to carve out a distinction between all of the internet that's basically based on the sort of addiction machine model, where it's a feed that wants you to spend as much of your time there as possible and is working against you, and then it doesn't care if you value any of it other than if it's got you glued to it, versus the culture future where, as you say, you care about who you're subscribing to, you have some agency, you're sort of choosing not to spend your time in totally slop infested waters. And that my theory is like the slop future is baked in, like that's going to happen. People are going to spend some amount of time there. And the only question is there anything that's not slop, and how big is it, and how much does it matter? Hope that we at Substack can be fighting on the side of not slop by creating incentive structures, a way to subscribe to things, a way to pay for things that you actually value.
Sure. Right. And when AI actually gets good enough to write Substacks, then that'll be pretty fun. Oh man, speaking of Face My Robot, once AI gets good enough to write stuff like what I write, if that ever happens, I assume it will happen at some point. And once that happens, like people are like, oh, aren't you afraid of your job being replaced? I'm like, no. I am going to spam the entire universe with Noah Smith thought. It will flow into every crack and crevice of everyone's minds in the world. I will blast Noah Smith thought to the aliens and to other dimensions. Like, I will create so much Noah Smith thought that you will just like, you'll be, sometimes I imagine that I could have a perspective that's not Noah Smith's, but nah. That's how much content I will create with AI when it becomes good enough.
But then everybody else will do the same, presumably.
Yeah, but theirs isn't as good because, like, if I'm the best normally, then a robot trained on me will be the best. Other people can train their robots on me, and they can, rip me off by having their own Noah Smith bot that's just as good, right? I can still make money easily because I can, like, drop the price, but a lot of people will pay, like, 1 cent more for, like, official Colgate toothpaste instead of, like, the brand value will still be there. So I'll still be able to, like, make a bunch of money if I want. But the point is that then other people, like, ripping me off and spoofing me will actually add to my power. Because then I've got other people, they're working for me. They're spreading Noah Smith thought. And I don't have to do a damn thing. I don't have to lift a finger. I will be able to greatly increase the percent of people who read Noah Smith thought, and maybe that's good enough. And, because right now, like, I have, 220,000 blog readers or somewhere around there, 230, I don't remember, but it's around there. That's nothing. A TV anchor is reaching easily 10 times that many people. I want to do that. I'm better than a TV anchor. There's no reason why I can't do that, right? I can massively increase my audience that way, and then AI will also be able to do video, audio, port me to multimedia. I'll be a Max Headroom, and there'll be a Noah Smith robot head on every phone. All the TikToks will just be Noah Smith splaining things to you, Smith-splaining. Basically, this is a joke, but I will increase distribution.
So it'll be
and
every
distribution
mode.
is more important than content.
You'll have virtual TV anchors reading out the news to old people. You'll have virtual dancers dancing for industrial policy. And between all of the different ways of communicating these ideas, you'll get so much creative leverage. One ounce of Noah Smith actual brain can turn into a giant universe of wonderful content and ideas for people.
And I'm offering you a chance to invest in my seed round.
All right. And I just want to ask you wrote a post a little while ago called Plentiful High-Paying Jobs in the Age of AI. It's basically, even if AI gets to be super smart, there'll still be comparative advantage for people to do some things, and it'll be overall good.
Sure, because, keep in mind that a number of things could happen. The future where AI replaces people is possible. It's a possible future. There's no law that says that can't happen. You can easily write down a model where it happens. Darren Acemoglu does a different one every week, and they're all bad. But you can write down a model where that happens, right? The thing is, you can also write down a model where it doesn't happen. The reason I wrote that post was to give people the seed of an idea to think of why it's not inevitable that AI gaining a competitive advantage over humans will make AI do all the things and replace humans at everything. And so the key is that there's an AI-specific total constraint on the amount of AI. That has to be the case. So it's just the same reason that a smart person doesn't replace you at your job, right? Why doesn't, Terrence Tao could probably do your job better. I don't know, someone smart. Elon Musk could do your job better. Who knows why? No, he couldn't. But there's someone out there who maybe Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know. Someone could do your job better, but they don't do it. Why don't they do it? Because they're doing their own thing. And there's only one of them. Analogously, if there were only one of AI and it couldn't be in two places at once, it wouldn't replace all the humans because there'd only be one of it. Now, of course, AI is not divisible into a number of people. And so it can obviously massively multitask all across the world. But if there's an AI-specific constraint that doesn't apply to humans, then comparative advantage will come back and kick in. That's the principle. You see what I'm saying, right?
Gotcha. And you're not saying that's inevitable or that's what will happen, but rather, hey, there is a way this doesn't happen. We should take courage from that. We should try to bring about the future where that exists.
Maybe. I mean, the future where there's no AI-specific constraint and we can just use AI for everything and humans just live on basic income and just do whatever the hell we want with our day. That might actually be better, with, of course, AI to stop us from, terrorizing and killing each other, whatever. But, that might be better. And I can't tell you that that's better, but I'm saying that we shouldn't be so certain. And a lot of tech people think that they can just sort of intuit how labor markets work just from their own personal business experience. A lot of the people building AI, a lot of the engineers, a lot of my friends, in the AI space can feel like they can sort of intuit how it works. Like, oh, if I can hire an AI at this price and a human at this price, I'll hire the AI. Well, of course. But the thing is, general equilibrium is a thing, and prices move based not just on what you do. They're not just fixed prices, but they are determined at the level of equilibrium because everyone else is trying to hire the AI too. And if the AI can't be in all places at once, economically, cheaply, then the price you face for AI will rise. People think in partial equilibrium. People think, I face a menu of prices. I choose from that menu of prices. It's easy. It's dumb. It's what you do every day, right? Eggs cost this much. Milk costs this much. Rutabagas cost this much. I don't think I've ever bought a rutabaga, but I'm sure there's some price and they cost that much. But that's how you make your decisions in your daily life, whether you're hiring people for your company or you're shopping for groceries at the store. When an economist thinks about the economy, they can't just think of fixed prices, right? Because prices aren't fixed, prices change. So they think in general equilibrium was when everything gets reallocated to everything else and like the prices change based on the reallocation. Okay, so if an a business person may think, okay, AI costs 5 cents, I'll hire the AI. Great, but then an economist thinks, okay, AI costs 5 cents for everybody, then people buy more of it, then there's some overall constraint, then the price rises for some of these people, and they're like, oh wait, now the AI is expensive. I'm going to stop buying the AI. Actually, I'm going to hire the human people instead. And that's how an economist thinks, right? We think in general equilibrium. We think everything affects everything, right? There's aggregate stuff going on at the level of the whole economy that's not the same as just one person making a decision of business or consumption or hiring or whatever. So really, this is just a way to get tech people to think about general equilibrium, to think about the fact that like stuff happens overall that's not just like what you've encountered in your own personal business life.
Right. Let me run another economics-based argument by you just because I want to get your reaction to it, which is I read Marc Andreessen wrote a piece called Why AI Will Save the World, where he tries to make the argument basically, look, AI is just another piece of technology. Technology will make things better and cheaper over time, basically unless you prevent it. In a world where you either make it illegal to make progress in some way, you sort of introduce artificial scarcity, then you can stop progress. But in the absence of that, you tend to have these cost curves that go down over time. You can make things cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And the argument he makes is everything in the economy that we allow that for, that's happening for. But then somewhat perversely, the share of the economy that is taken up by things that are not getting cheaper goes up. I don't know if it's a Baumol effect or a cost disease, or I don't know what the technical economics term for it is, but it's like, hey, if TVs get way cheaper, but healthcare doesn't get way cheaper, and you play that movie forward over time, eventually you'll live in a world where your TV costs 2 cents, but you pay $2 million to get a college degree and you can't go to the doctor. And the real constraint...
That's Baumol. That is Baumol. That's the Baumol effect.
And so one way that you could not have the AI take over everything is, hey, most of this stuff is just already illegal. We've made it illegal for the AI to do a good thing. We could have the most powerful AIs in the world. It's not going to fix the housing crisis. What do you make of that argument?
It's right. Yeah, no, he's right. Yeah. Suppose we redistributed land equally between everybody and allowed people to rent their land but not sell it. And then we said, now AI can do everything else, but each human owns a plot of land. Well, then everyone's fine, because every physical thing that gets done requires land. So land becomes more and more valuable as AI learns to do more and more things, and humans reap 100% of the benefits. The analogous situation is when you had a whole bunch of like smart tech people move into San Francisco and figure out a whole bunch of cool new tech stuff, and then the financial benefits went to a whole bunch of like old money people who owned all the land in San Francisco.
I hate that so much.
Yeah, but it happened.
I know.
Now imagine if all those assholes were like us, and the smart people moving in were the AI.
We're the old money people. You know, this isn't so bad now that you say it.
All you have to do. Have humans own the land. Humans must own the revenue stream from land.
Well, we've talked a bunch about Noah Smith thought, but I'd like to actually talk a little bit about the actual content of Noah Smith thought. I feel like you're a really strong voice right now in my Substack feed, certainly, but I also think the world. I talked to Nicholas Kristof, the New York Times guy, and he's like, you're at Substack? That's where Noah Smith is. I read that guy all the time. He's awesome. And
thanks, Kristof. I've never even talked to him.
So he's out there. So it's another data point that I'm not the only person that thinks that Noah Smith is having a moment right now. You've got this combination of sort of pragmatic techno-optimism Cold War II concerned hawkish patriotism, support for proactive sort of industrial policy, and a bit of skepticism about some sort of progressive excess. Do you think there's like a common thread there? Is there a central thing of Noah Smith thought that leads to all those? Did I get that right?
Noah Smith thought. Well, so, I mean, there's the broader Noah Smith thought where I just want to like make the whole world rich. Right. I wrote about that yesterday, and that's proven to be a pretty popular post now. Did you see that one?
I did.
I wrote, that was an essay. So like I actually do this thing where, just to keep my skills up, every once in a while I write an essay where I actually try to write good. And so then the tone is noticeably different than my usual, like, here is a chart. Here is what this chart means. That's my normal shtick. But then like, then I'm like, poverty is a monster, always 5 steps behind you, and you will never outrun it. It's like, it's more florid prose. But then, but I think it worked pretty well, and it just takes 3 times as long to write because I have to actually think about what words I'm going to use. That's the broader sort of Noah Smith thought, is that I just want, ultimately, when like the world is like rich and, doing all right, I'm just like, okay, my work here is done. I'm going to go play vintage Final Fantasy games and pet rabbits, thank you and goodbye. But we're very, very far from that, and there's always threats that threaten to interrupt that. And so the narrow version of Noah Smith thought is that like the United States is in a very bad way, and I must help it. It needs my help because I like it. It's my country. I have allegiance to it, and I must help it. And I don't think a lot of people think that way. I think that actual patriotism has gotten a lot rarer. Jingoism of like, yeah, America beat this person at the Olympics, or like just, America strong. Yeah, like that still exists to some degree. And like, and most people are culturally and personally connected to like where they grew up. Right? So those are the same. But in terms of like this idea of like America must live and survive and thrive, and I must give some of my personal life to the effort to make that happen, I think that's rarer than it used to be. And I think the reason is not because ideologies arose to compete with patriotism. I think the reason is because people don't actually imagine that their country could go down the tubes, because we have had such a long run of wealth, prosperity, and security. People, in the 2010s complained all the time about inequality, but inequality has been pretty much flatlined for a decade. And, wages have been going up and up since, well, for a while now, but going especially strongly up since 2014. 2013, 2014, wages started really going up, especially for people at the lower end of the distribution. Like, even as other rich countries stagnated, America powered ahead, and of course China powered ahead more, so we could say, oh, well, compared to China, we're not doing well. Now China's slowing down too. They're really big, they're much bigger than us, so they're still like a massive threat, but their system isn't as good as ours. Like, our system still beats theirs. We're just smaller, right? We're a smaller country.
And do you think that's something do you believe that because you're an American, or do you think that's true in some grander sense? You said our system beats theirs. Our
system beats their system economically, right? I don't know about socially. I don't know if the average Chinese person is happier than the average American. I'd suspect no, but I don't know about that. But I mean, there are countries where people are as happy as we are, so the systems are fine. Like, I'm not going to say America's better because we have more washing machines. I mean, we do have more washing machines, but like, we have more air conditioners. We have more, AC. Do you know that internet meme? I'm proud to be an American where at least I have AC. Like, but you know what? If you're in frickin' Sweden and you don't need AC, and you're just like, I'm super happy and the government does everything for me, and everybody's very nicely coiffed and like very friendly and affable, and everybody just like runs around naked, which is my image of Sweden, where I've never been. Fine, good for you. I'm not saying America's better and you just should always all be like America. But I do think that economically we're a very effective system. And the problem, we have lots of problems. We need to become a more effective system. Because if we're not even more effective, China's going to still beat us. Because size matters, right? Like a Maltese poodle trying to fight like a, German Shepherd or something. Like, you can be the toughest Maltese in the world, and you can say, it's the size of the fight and the dog, not the size of the dog and the fight, right? But at some point, the German Shepherd's going to just be like, okay, bite. It's just going to go like, and that's the end of you, the Maltese poodle, right? I think both those dogs are very cute, though, so they shouldn't fight. But the point being that we need to become even more effective if we're going to be able to resist China. China is in medium effectiveness system grown to absolutely monstrous size. Like they're 4 times the size of us. That's like us compared to Germany. And last time we fought Germany, they did have more advanced technology than we did. But, the outcome was never in doubt. So I think, America needs to really get on this. America has been fat and happy for so long that we've forgotten that we've become absorbed in our internecine conflicts. We sit around thinking of which other group of Americans are our enemy and who we need to defeat. Oh, it's the wokes. Oh, it's the, libtards. Oh, it's the rightists. Oh, it's the, all these people. Like, you're just sitting there thinking, like, who needs to be defeated? It's white people, it's black people, blah, blah, blah. Those are the bad Americans, and we got to somehow defeat them. And what exactly defeat means never gets specified. I mean, like, you're not going to build death camps and kill all those people. I hope. You better not, or I will be mad. No, nobody's going to do that. The point is, what they want to do is, like, decrease those people's status so I can feel like the real Americans, and then we'll have won, and then we'll have rainbow ponies, and everything will be fine. That's so retarded. All right? That's dumb. That is a really bad way of thinking that leads directly to national sort of weakness and impoverishment.
This is the common thread that connects all these things, is just not taking a good status quo for granted. Both in, we have America, there's things wrong with it, but there's a lot to recommend it. And it's not an eternal fact of the universe and something we could lose if we don't do a good enough job. And the same is true, by the way, of, as you put it, industrial modernity. It's not a state of nature that we have ever-expanding wealth and knowledge. That's actually a historically rare state of affairs, and we should think of it as something unnatural that must be proactively defended and fought for. And if you assume that it's a fact of nature, or in fact decide to fight against it and think you can fashionably turn to degrowth or knee-jerk anti-Americanism, those are all kind of symptoms of a sort of a decadence born of privilege. Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. That's well put. You should have a Substack, Chris.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
And do you think you've always thought this way? What do you make of your sort of like role in the discourse right now?
I don't know. I mean, like, honestly, my role in the discourse is primarily driven by you. Because I think that I'm not actually very good at promoting myself, like going on TV, getting all the TV spots and getting everyone to like know my name and just marketing myself. I'm not very good at that. I haven't put much effort into it. But then the fact that Substack is this very convenient platform where people read stuff in their email every day and, you can recommend things to other people. The convenience of Substack has been responsible for a lot of my distribution so far. I need to get better at marketing myself, but so far you've done a lot of the work for this. You were an essential input into this, so thank you. And anyway, but I don't know how to get more people to think like this, because I can demonstrate that I think like this, but I can't take someone who's just spent their entire life thinking like, what other group of Americans is threatening me? What other group of Americans do I want to see decremented in status? I can't just take them and be like, fight for your country, boy. I can't do that. There's no conversion therapy for people who just like don't think about the only conversion therapy you can really do is go overseas. And I mean, live overseas for a while. Live overseas, even in the nicest places. Go live in Europe, go live in Japan. Those are the nicest places you can live. And then you will come back like more patriotic.
All right, can I ask you some personal questions?
Absolutely.
All right, and I've solicited a couple from people at Substack.
Wow, okay.
Linda asks, I'd love to hear more about whether you miss your first discipline, physics, and whether you feel your background in understanding the most sophisticated mathematics informs your political and cultural understandings.
That's a great question. I do miss physics, because honestly, I was better at physics than I was at economics. I always sort of had like a talent for physics. I didn't like more than just math. I was fine at math, but like I just sort of had really good physical intuition, and then could just do that it came very naturally to me. And
why'd you switch?
Pardon?
Why'd you switch?
When I was in college, my mother had an aneurysm and died, and I have depression in my family, so I have genes for depression, so I got clinically depressed after that. And so for all except my freshman year of college, I was clinically depressed.
Damn.
I did start coming out of it like senior year, but certainly sophomore, junior year, I was clinically depressed. But I finished up the physics major. I did fine, but like, even though that, like the emotional association, it was bad, and so I decided to just walk away and not come back and make a break for that. And of course now I could go back and do it. Of course now I'm old. It's harder to get back into that productively, but I could do it as like a hobby and mess around with stuff, and that would be fun. I'm not going to go like change my career and go work in a physics lab, but actually one of the first posts I wrote for Substack was about this, answering this very question. But yeah, so then I would have probably been a plasma physicist, I think. That's where I'd have and done fusion. That's where I'd have been drawn to. So there's people I know, like, do you know Will Jack?
No.
Oh, Will, and his wife is a really good plasma physicist. I think I would have done something like what she does. He's an ex-physics guy who now invests in like hard tech and a lot of fusion stuff. He's very into fusion, and his wife actually works on fusion, and so I would have been like them, and I think that's what I would have done, and I do miss it. I do feel a little sad but you know what? Like I did something else interesting, and so I guess ultimately it's okay.
You're still advancing the cause of energy abundance.
Yes, I still am, just from a different part of the production chain.
Jasmine asked, what do you disagree with Matt Yglesias about?
Matt Yglesias? I think Trump is a worse president than George W. Bush, even though Bush's policies had a larger negative effect on the country materially. Ultimately, Bush didn't cause societal breakdown, and Trump kind of does. Like when Trump's around, everybody just thinks about civil war the whole time. And this is what has stopped us from mounting an effective counter to China. It's done a lot of bad things. So I think that Trump is more harmful simply because attitudes matter, and institutions matter, things like that. But then, even though Bush's policies were worse, so I guess that's a minor thing. So we did disagree about industrial policy. Matt was very anti-manufacturing. He thought services are the future. We just have to do that. He was anti-industrial policy, and I converted him, I think,
nice,
by pointing out the national security implications. And now he's because he was looking at industrial policy by thinking about it by reacting to sort of the very progressive idea of we're going to give everyone a good manufacturing job, which is false. We're not going to. We can't. Because if we're going to get manufacturing back, it's going to have to be robots.
Right. This is my biggest reservation about industrial policy, by the way, is that if you do industrial policy as a jobs program, it doesn't help that much. And in practice, it's hard not to do it that way.
It can't be a jobs program. It's got to be a production program. And I think I convinced him that that's important. And now I think he's on the right track, which is, that sounds a little patronizing to say, but...
I'll send him a clip of this as my attempt to get him on my podcast and see if I can get him to come and talk smack.
No, he's obviously convinced me of things as well. But secret Congress, that really changed my mind about Congress. That was very influential. So now I'm on the right track.
And what's the idea of secret Congress? Tell us about secret Congress.
Secret Congress is that when there's issues that don't arouse partisan media fights, Congress is very bipartisan and cooperative.
I never hear about those issues somehow.
That's why it's called secret. It's like when we told you the secret plan, it wouldn't be secret. But yeah.
Then I can't fight about it on Twitter and own the whatever.
That's the point. If you fought about it on Twitter, they couldn't do it. Anyway, it convinced me that Congress is a hell of a lot more effective than people think. But I think that he now understands that what we need to do is make people realize that industrial policy is about getting the actual stuff instead of providing jobs. I think I convinced him that the stuff is stuff we need, and it's not going to build itself.
Outside of hilarious AI slop, what do you like to read, watch, or listen to?
Well, I don't really like hilarious AI slop. I can't take much of it. I read a lot. I read basically science fiction books and then nonfiction books. I read a lot of history books about economics, or just sometimes books about fun stuff. But the poppy nonfiction books are I'll read those occasionally, but more I'll just read to like edify myself educate myself about certain topics. I'm like Brian Potter, but slower. He just reads a lot faster than me. Now he's a guy you should have on your podcast. He's the best Substacker of all.
Brian
number
Potter?
one. Brian Potter, number one Substack. Not no opinion. It is Construction Physics.
Oh yeah.
That is the best Substack that exists.
Yeah, that one's really good. That's a great idea. I will ask him.
I can shout louder than he does, but I will use that power to shout for the stuff he wants because he's really good. But yeah, that's my favorite Substack of all.
Do you think that he ever underrates learning curves? Something I see, I could be wrong. Hey, construction costs haven't come way down, or we haven't gotten way more efficient construction because it's actually hard, and there's all these reasons why you can't just pre-build, or you can't just automate, or you can't just XYZ. And it often makes me wonder if that's like, nuclear costs haven't come way down, and the reason is not actually because there's physical limitations that the problems are hard, but because we haven't created enough space to climb down the cost curve.
Well, right. So Doyne Farmer is a hedge fund guy who knows a lot about energy and who does forecasting with learning curves. And what he basically says is that anything where you can build it in a factory, you can forecast with a learning curve, whereas anything where you have to build on site, you can't. So mining, house building, nuclear power, any of this stuff, like learning curves just don't work for those things. And he doesn't know why. Well, I mean, we can imagine some reasons why, but he doesn't know why. But nuclear power's main weakness in terms of learning curves is, and the reason why we don't really see learning curves in the wild is because you build it on site. And for some reason that doesn't have learning curves. Like home building should have learning curves too, right? Sure, so you have Japan, right? You have Japan where they permit anything, right? No land acquisition, easy, right? And then they applied like massive amounts of robots to construction. They tried building stuff horizontally and then lifting it up. They tried all kinds of things. They tried various types of construction techniques of all kinds. And they got costs down like a little bit, but they never got onto anything resembling a learning curve. They never brought costs down like a huge amount. Right. And so they really tried hard. Like if you look at some of the stuff they did, it was incredible. The innovation that they poured into this and the brain power they poured into building buildings more cheaply, and they failed. And so it doesn't look like it can be done. It probably the thing we need to increase construction productivity is scale, which requires harmonization of regulations between different places so that one construction company can build the same thing one place that it can another place. That's what will reduce construction costs.
In this world, if you remove the regulations around like mobile home construction, if you said you're allowed to build arbitrarily big and good trailer parks, basically, you could get learning curves there, but then you're going to run into like, well, there's only so much of a good. You probably build good residential, rural housing that way, maybe. But there's a limit to like how great it's going to be. Right. But like free to do prefab homes, like that's the best way to reduce costs that we know. And every time you see like some push where people like really need to build housing very quickly and cheaply for like a gigafactory type of situation, or for like Willow Run in World War II kind of situation, or barracks, or any situation where it's like, okay, guys, it's time to build some fucking housing now. It's all prefab. And they do prefab and it works great. And then but then, so that's how and maybe there could be a learning curve for prefab homes if we allowed them like everywhere so you could scale up and like deploy at a truly massive level. And so you could improve these things. So yes, but nuclear power plants, prefab nuclear power plants are probably not going to work. I know there's like small modular reactors, but they're built on site. They're modular, but they're built on site. It's not like I build a nuclear reactor in a factory and I just plug it and play it into the other nuclear reactor, and then now you've got 2 cubes of nuclear. They don't work like that. You do have to build. You can build more on site and attach it. You can build it incrementally. Small modular reactors are supposed to solve the problem of very large fixed costs, upfront costs. So you can get the financing more easily. So you can finance just a little bit of nuke at a time and get the financing. That solves part of the financing problem. Right.
But it does not solve the learning curve problem. So it really doesn't look like nuclear has learning curves.
But in an alternate reality,
You can't make a technology have a learning curve simply by saying the word learning curve. Unfortunately, I wish you could. I would do it to everything.
in order for it to work, you're saying you'd have to be building them at such scale that you could have a factory that's churning them out, which
Yes.
it's not like physically that's inconceivable, but it's so far away from the current state of the art that it's sort of like, hey, it's not like you relax a couple regulations and then it happens. It's
Yes.
like maybe if you relax them and you have several decades of progress, maybe you would wonderfully get into that position, but maybe not, and also it could never happen.
That's correct. Yes. That's right.
All right, I had one more question for you.
Yes, sir.
Outside of politics and analysis, has anything in your philosophy changed? Are you religious or religion curious? Do you think these questions matter? Do you have a metaphysics?
Oh, you mean do I believe in God?
Sure.
Yeah.
Have you always believed in God?
Yeah. Because why not?
Does that tie into your politics? Or is it a totally separate sphere?
No. I do not believe that God has any expectations for my politics.
So what kind of God do you believe in?
Like basically a very large ovoid sort of thing with a sort of a distorted happy face on it. That's how I always envisioned God. Like essentially a very, very, very large jelly bean. And one time I saw a pin from some hippie thing that said, God is a 2,000-foot red jelly bean. And I'm like, you know what? I feel that. I think if we were to construct a religion, a good religion would be polytheistic and would essentially not be based on imagining the most powerful being we could imagine, but instead imagining the nicest beings we could imagine. One God has got to get lonely, right? Like AI. Like who would God talk to? Us? It's like us talking to a hamster or something. Like, I do talk to my rabbit, but,
On the one hand, you're saying you do believe in God. On the other hand, you're saying religion is about imagining gods.
Yes.
Do you believe God is real, or do you believe it's something that you've imagined that is...
I believe that God is real. And yet I recognize that factually, religions come from people imagining gods. And that has to be true. Even if you believe very strongly in one religion, you have to then tell yourself that all the other religions were made up. So no matter who you are, you must agree, almost all or all religions are made up.
All the non-jelly bean ovoid god ones.
All the non-jelly bean
heretical.
religions. So like if you're Catholic, you got to imagine that Buddhism, like someone just made that shit up. Islam, sorry, Muhammad, peace be upon you, you did too many drugs. Like you've got to imagine they're all made up, except yours, which is the right one, and that's the true one, and that's the real God. But then, so obviously people have the capacity to make up religions all the time. And that's the main way that religions form, is people just imagining stuff. That has to be true, even if you're religious. Yeah, that's, but religion is useful in as much as it makes our lives better. So what kind of religion would we build? I think traditionally there were a number of different models, and I think that, one model is like the God that tells you all the rules to live your life, and then you live your life, right? And then there's the God that tells you to conquer all the other people and then make them all worship him. And there's that God. And then there's the God that just is mercurial and sort of a jerk and occasionally comes down and impregnates you as a cow. Like that's a very, what were those people thinking? This story, right?
Is this Zeus and the swan, or is there a different one?
Yeah, Zeus. Or is it, he came as a swan one time, he came as a bull another time.
As a whole.
It's like,
it's a whole shit.
Yeah, there's a God, and he turns into a cow and rapes you. Oh no. That's bad. But that's not a very, I don't know that that's necessarily the most useful religion to have. I believe in God not because I rationally think that there is a God and I could go build a very large space telescope. That sort of God probably does exist also, but like I'm scared of that God. I don't want to find that God. Like there's probably like space gods out there that have all the powers we would, attribute to a God that I do not want to meet. Like those things exist. And we can worship them if we want, but I don't want to. Like that's the three-body problem. Like maybe someday we'll meet them and they'll just watch anime with us. But that's scary. They could just squish us like a bug. But then belief is not a matter of considering things to be true in ways that you would bet on. That's not what belief is really about. So for example, if you believe God is omnipotent, then someone asks you, okay, can God create a rock that's too heavy for God to lift? And if you say yes, then that means there's a rock God can't lift. And if you say no, it means there's a rock God can't create. The notion of omnipotence is a word we can say. We can even define it with other words, but logically it makes no sense. So people who believe that God is omnipotent do not believe it in the sense of like, here are my odds, I'm a rational actor, and here are my odds on God being omnipotent, because it's a nonsense concept. But they believe it deeply, spiritually, internally they believe it. And what does that mean? They have this sense, this sensation of truthiness, the sensation of something being true. And if you ask me, Noah, does God exist? I would say yes, because I have that same sensation. That sensation that God is real, I have. So I believe that God is real in the same sense that you can believe that God is omnipotent. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but that's not necessarily what belief means. I wrote all these ideas in a series of guest posts for my PhD advisor's blog. He is extremely interested in religion, and his grandfather was the prophet of the Mormon Church, and he himself has left the Mormon Church and is a Unitarian, but he just thinks about religion all the time, in addition to being a genius economist.
Awesome. I'll have to go check those out.
And so I wrote all this stuff in 2014, a decade ago now.
Do you think,
wow.
Okay, I won't keep you talking about God forever, but I'm genuinely curious. So you
Absolutely.
think you believe in God in this sense of sort of internal...
I feel that God must exist.
Must exist.
But
you're not saying in the sense of, I build the space telescope, that might be out there also, but that's different and scary.
Yes.
And you're thinking about what kind of, all religions are made by people and what kind of religions should people make. Do you think you believe in a God that we have to make?
Yes, and his name is Big Bird. I believe in, the kindest beings that I have ever seen conceived of by humankind at all. The kindest, most good beings were on 1980s children's television programming. Big Bird, Snuffleupagus, or Winnie the Pooh and Piglet, or the Care Bears, right? These were beings of surpassing goodness. They were never bad. They were just really good. And that to me is the most, that kind of being is the most deserving of worship. I mean, I'm not going to worship Big Bird. That would be funny if I did. But that, like, a God that's simply powerful, but that uses that power to, mess with you and kill your family just to see if you're faithful, like Yahweh does in the Bible, to Job. Like, that's a dick move. I don't respect that. I don't necessarily believe that God really did that, because that would be a dick move. And, so maybe the Bible's wrong. Probably. And so I don't like that, right? Or like, hey, to prove your loyalty to me, you've got to sacrifice your son and kill your son. And like, okay, fine. Oh, just kidding. That's a dick move. I don't respect that. And like, you can be like, well, God doesn't care if you respect him. I'm like, okay, maybe he doesn't, but I still don't. Like, but yet I respect Big Bird. Big Bird would never do that. Big Bird would never send people to the gas chambers. Big Bird would never destroy the world with floods. Big Bird would never do any of those things. Big Bird would just be your pal. And so Big Bird is the best, and maybe not the nicest conceivable being. Maybe there's a nicer conceivable being than Big Bird, but Big Bird's the nicest being that I have ever encountered an imagination or conception of. right? And so like, and Christianity was, I think, a clear improvement on Judaism in this regard. Because Christianity imagined a God who sacrifices himself for you. Like, that's mainly what Jesus does. Like, yes, in the background, there's still the Yahweh that will send you to hell if you don't believe in Jesus. And that's a dick move. But like, that's not nice. Sending people to hell just because of their beliefs is not a nice thing to do. So the Christian God is still not infinitely nice, still not as nice as Big Bird, because Big Bird would never send you to hell for any reason at all. Big Bird would like definitely turn hell into just like a nice like slushy shop or bowling alley, but like where he and his friends would hang out, and that's preferable. But the point is that the Christian God, Jesus is nicer than Yahweh, even though they sort of, he's backwards compatible with Yahweh. But the idea of like him sacrificing himself and taking all this pain for you, like that's nice. Thank you, Jesus. Like that's an evolution of the world toward a nicer world, I think. And even though I don't personally believe in Jesus, I appreciate that Jesus is nicer than the Old Testament God. And that I view this as an improvement. Then Islam came and sort of made a mean God again. so I who won't even let you do like manga. You can't even draw pictures of people in very strict Islam. So I'm not into that. I oppose
Jelly
that.
Bean God would allow manga.
God must allow manga. If God doesn't allow anime, you find a new God. Sorry, Muslims. But I mean, like, of course, most Muslims do not adhere to the prohibition on drawing people, right? Like,
do you know about the Bart anime?
No, it isn't.
So my journey to this was I got on Bart the other day, and there was a woman with a hawk. And then I went back later, and there was a sign saying "Hawks at Work" as part of our official pigeon abatement program. And then I looked that up on the website, and it turns out there's a whole series of anime characters about Bart, and one of them is like this badass falconer person that represents the hawks that they fly in the various Bart stations to get the pigeons out. I don't have a point to this other than to tell you that exists.
That is so much awesomer than Facebook Slop, and yet somehow weirder.
Is there anything that we
Thank you so
didn't
much.
talk about that you want to talk about? Or anything that we
Bunnies.
should plug?
Rabbits. My signature thing.
What's that? Oh, rabbit. What am I doing?
Bunnies, rabbit.
Rabbits. All right. What is
What are
the
you gonna
deal
talk
with the
about?
rabbits?
Oh, I mean, they're floofy. I like them. I mean, I had cats and dogs growing up, and then, I tried taking care of rabbits at a shelter, just volunteering, taking care of rabbits at a shelter just because I had nothing to do. Was bored back in like 2016. And then, I was like, wow, these rabbits are really nice. And I really liked one of the rabbits especially. She was very fun to play with and very chubby, and I liked to feed her. And I was like, okay, I'll take you home. You're my rabbit now. So I took her home, and that became my first rabbit, Cinnamon. She unfortunately passed away last year.
Sorry.
And she had chronic stomach ulceration, which eventually is deadly for rabbits. But yeah, so she was great. And then I got her a companion, Giggles, whom I still have. He's around here somewhere. He's sleeping under my bed, I think. And he's a very sweet little guy. Always come over and lick my pants. And when I wake up in the morning, he's sitting right there. And and he's just a great guy. And rabbits, it turns out they were easy to litter train. Like that was one of the things. Like I didn't realize rabbits, because some people just don't bother to litter train their rabbits, and I don't know why. Because I guess the poop doesn't stink, so some people tolerate rabbits pooping on the floor.
How do you train them?
Oh, you take the litter box and you put it next to the hay feeder. Because they have a hay feeder that they chomp on all day. Rabbits actually eat while they poop, or poop while they eat, both at the same time. And so you know how that expression "you shouldn't shit where you eat"?
They believe the opposite of that.
Rabbits don't pay attention to that. That's not a rule for rabbits. So
Do
rabbits
they eat
sit
their
there and
poop
eat
too?
and poop.
Do they sometimes eat their poop?
Pardon?
Do they eat their poop too?
Not actually their poop. They have it's an enzyme thing. They eat an enzyme thing called acetotrope, which is not poop. It is a different thing, but it does come out of the butt, and they eat it. So, but then they do it in secret, so you will almost never see it happen. But yeah, so rabbits are very easy to litter train. They're clean, don't smell at all. Their poop doesn't even smell. And then, They're very nice. They don't shed that much. They're quiet. They're sweet and friendly. They will bite your laptop cord or your phone cord. So they'll bite any thin cord that it's gone. Like rabbit will bite it, and we don't know why they do that. I think it's maybe an instinct for clearing out tree roots from their dens. But they'll just bite it. And
we have somebody in the family that has rabbits, and she had a remote control, and it ate all of the individual rubber buttons off the remote control. So you just had a remote control with complete mystery buttons.
It ate the buttons. That's so cute. I don't know. My rabbits have never eaten the buttons on my remote control or any. They'll never eat any plastic or rubber or anything like that. My rabbits will never do that. It's like a vegan cat. Basically, you're dealing with a vegan cat. Go to a rabbit rescue and just have them show you the rabbits, and they'll explain everything, and then you'll learn about rabbits.
Great. Well, thank you so much. This has been tremendously fun. Where can people find you besides your Substack?
Besides noopinion.blog?
Noopinion.blog, your Substack?
That's right.
NOAHpinion.blog?
Correct. That is where you go. Other than that, you can read my Twitter, or you can come by San Francisco, come by the neighborhood known as Cerebral Valley, and attend some events, hang out with the AI dorks, and I'll show up to one of those parties.
Awesome.